haven't done a live video for ages. Let me just check that my volume is up. And what else? What else do I need to check? Yeah, that should do it. Last time I did a live video for you guys, my mum rang while I was doing a meditation. Luckily it was at the end of the meditation, so it was kind of just really, really funny, but I've just checked and the phone is on silent, so we're all good. It's been a while since I've done a video. I just got a bit more proactive. I had a bit more energy, I think, following on from being able to see my friends and stuff, and so I got my stuff together at home so I could work from home, and I've had a few jobs, so things have been a bit busy, which is really nice, and I hope that things have evolved for you guys in some way, whatever your situation is now, and I hope that you've been enjoying the summer. So I was reading this lovely book, On the Path to Enlightenment. It's full of quotes from Buddhist monks, and I've read 4 chapters. It's great because you can just dive into any chapter. So we're going to go, did I mark it? We're going to go to chapter 5 anyway. There's been some really heavy stuff in here so far. Buddhism is all, I get a lot of like emptiness, which can be a bit scary, thinking how empty things can be, but it's very interesting. So let's see. Yeah, okay, let's find the start of this chapter. And yeah, a lot of it is just quotes from these monks, which is really nice. Yeah, I just miss reading to you guys. It's just a really nice thing to do. Good practice for me as well. I mean, I had my first audiobook job the other day, and I honestly think reading to you guys has been a massive help. It's kept my head in the game, so that's really good. Hi Ben, and hi Ben, amongst other people. 2 Bens. Right, so chapter 5. I hope you're sitting, lying, listening comfortably. Chapter 5 is called Giving Up the Causes of Suffering. Sounds like a nice one. Okay. Giving up the causes of suffering. True renunciation is not a constraint, but a freedom. It comes from the strong desire to end the frustration inevitably created by the ordinary preoccupations of life. Someone who renounces the world to escape from the prison of illusion is like a bird escaping from its cage to fly in the sky. It does not matter whether the cage is made of gold or base metal. It is still a prison. Whether individuals are rich or poor, famous or unknown, whether they experience success or failure, pleasure or pain, they often end up unhappy and frustrated. Renunciation essentially means simplifying one's mind, one's words, and one's activities by letting go of what obstructs inner freedom. Constraint creates frustration. Renunciation produces a real sense of joy. Renunciation does not mean depriving oneself of what is truly good and useful in life, but rather getting rid of unnecessary burdens. When hermits repeat 10 times the magic mantra, "I need nothing," they are not making their life insipid, but trying to get rid of the endless distractions that take over the mind and leave them with the bitter taste of lost time. They want to unclutter their life to devote themselves completely to what is truly enriching. The advice that follows is often very direct and blunt. This is probably intentional, since for most of us the desire for renunciation is not a natural impulse. This is from the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso. Bear with me on pronunciation. When the teachings say we need to reduce our fascination with the things of this life, it does not mean that we should abandon them completely. It means avoiding the natural tendency to go from elation to depression in reaction to life's ups and downs, jumping for joy when you have some success, or wanting to jump out the window if you do not get what you want. Being less concerned about the affairs of this life means assuming its ups and downs with a broad and stable mind. This is from Diljo Khyentse Rinpoche. Spending all your life trying to achieve ordinary worldly goals is like trying to net fish in a dry riverbed. Clearly understanding this, make a firm decision not to allow your life to pursue such a useless course. Nyo Shul Ken Rinpoche. What makes the Dharma not only useful but necessary? To answer this question, look around and reflect upon your situation in this world. If you do so, without blinding yourself to reality, you will see that what all beings have in common is suffering. We all suffer in one way or another. A boss has a boss's suffering, and a worker has a worker's suffering. When you see your boss pass by in the street, you might think, he has a good social position, he lives in a big house and drives a nice car, he must be happy. But this is rarely the case. That man is suffering too. Maybe he is worried about losing his position, or he has too much work, or he is tormented by the ambition to get ahead in politics, for instance, or he may have big family problems. He probably has a long list of other problems too. Even the president of a big country like the United States has to worry about losing his country's approval or being unable to influence the rest of the world. Even if he succeeds, he is still under constant pressure to keep in control of events. The ordinary worker, meanwhile, is forced to do this and that, following the orders of his superiors, and his work is often tedious and poorly paid. Is it possible to find a solution to these problems? In the everyday world, the answer is probably no. You might think that by giving a large sum of money to a beggar, you would make that person happy. For some time, maybe. But soon, instead of being satisfied with that sum and enjoying being able to feed and clothe himself, he will want twice as much. Chasing after possessions never brings happiness, since the efforts we have to make to get them, protect them, and increase them are already a kind of suffering. No one is ever satisfied with his or her wealth and power. That would be too easy. Think about the number of people who suffer because they are disabled, sick in hospital, dying of hunger, or war victims. Think about the families torn apart by strife or deprived of a loved one who has just died. Perhaps you don't have this kind of problem right now, but who knows when your turn will come. Although the modern world has reached an unimaginable level of development in science and technology, there is no machine and no trick to end suffering and produce happiness. To end suffering, not only by relieving its symptoms but by eradicating its root cause, is precisely the aim of the Buddha's teaching. So, how should we proceed? We must first realize that the true cause of suffering is not outside, but inside. We suffer because of all sorts of negative emotions such as attachment, anger, repulsion, pride, jealousy, confusion. Those emotions are real mental poisons. They are based on a wrong way of understanding and lead only to suffering. This is explained in the Buddha's teaching, but can also be understood directly through genuine objective reflection. This is why true spiritual practice consists of working on one's own mind. The mind is very powerful. It can create happiness or suffering, heaven or hell. If, with the help of the Dharma, you manage to eliminate your inner poisons, nothing from outside will ever affect your happiness. But as long as those poisons remain in your mind, you will not find the happiness you seek anywhere in the world. To work on the mind is a very vast subject, and the whole Dharma is dedicated to that. Yet, the essence is this. The main reason for which the mind generates a multitude of concepts, negative emotions, and habitual tendencies is the strong clinging to I, me, and mine. Because of that clinging, one suffers when one does not obtain whatever that I wants, and one suffers when one encounters what that I does not want. Through meditating over and over again on the nature of mind, one can gradually dissolve ego clinging. Among all the methods to achieve that result, the most profound is the meditation on bodhicitta, that is, love and compassion. To be full of love for all sentient beings and consider others more important than oneself is the very root of Dharma. Hi, Jodie. I'm just pausing for a second because I heard on the radio or somewhere about the meditation on love and compassion that the Buddhist monks do, and it's something obviously we can all do. You can just Google it and say it, but the idea is that you start with people or pets or whatever, things that you do really like, and then you gradually get further away from people and things you know. And after a while, you're sort of chanting this meditation for people that maybe you really don't like or people that you really don't support, and wanting to wish them love and peace and finding that compassion for those people. So that's another reminder to me that that's a thing. It feels like it could be a really good thing to do. Anyway, onwards. This is the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso. The meaning of true renunciation. If you have a deep and complete understanding of the Four Noble Truths, and that understanding is based on the knowledge of emptiness, you will also understand the nature of the cycle of suffering in general and, in particular, your own condition. Through that, you will have a sincere and considered aspiration for liberation. That is true renunciation. But if you have tried every means to make your way in society and have failed, and you then say, out of disgust or desperation, I give up, because you can find nothing better to do, that is not real renunciation. It is just defeatism. A true practitioner of the Dharma renounces with courage and full knowledge of the facts. In the Buddha's mantra, Om Muni Muni Mahumane Swaha, the word Muni means one who is capable and has confidence in his own resources. It is with this attitude that we should abandon the cycle of suffering, and not in a spirit of discouragement, groaning and saying, I'm so fed up. Genuine renunciation involves determination to overcome ignorance, our real enemy. This determination begins to manifest when we realize that we are slaves of mental confusion and that there is little space for true happiness in our lives. When this feeling becomes unbearable, our only preoccupation is to get free. Then it is important to share that feeling with all beings as infinite as space, being fully aware that, just like us, they want to be happy and not suffer. Then selfless love and compassion, which means a deep desire to free others from suffering, will arise, culminating in the wish to attain enlightenment, to liberate all beings from ignorance and the suffering it creates. This is from Shabkar. If you go back to the source of the suffering of samsara, you will only find ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of the fact that beings and things are devoid of true reality, in that they do not exist in themselves and by themselves. How does ignorance manifest? If one night you pass by a coiled rope on the ground in the dark, you might think it is a snake curled up and be so terrified that your heart races. Similarly, when we are immersed in the darkness of ignorance, we have a mistaken perception of the temporary meeting of our body and consciousness. Unable to clearly discern its true nature, we take it as an I. That I, in fact, has no reality. As a result, we create a distinction between I and other. We are attached to the one and reject the other. Based on this double process of attraction and repulsion, all the other mental poisons arise, and under their influence we take birth in the various higher and lower worlds of samsara, in which we do a mixture of beneficial and harmful deeds with unfortunate consequences. Samsara, I believe, is like this life, this physical reality. Milarepa says, "The sound of thunder, although deafening, is harmless. The rainbow, despite its brilliant colours, does not last. This world, though it appears pleasant, is like a dream. The pleasures of the senses, though agreeable, ultimately lead to disillusionment." And Drigung Jiten Gonpo says, "When we look at death and the impermanence of all things, our ordinary projects are just a joke. How can you believe in the 8 worldly preoccupations, which are as transient as the colours of the rainbow?" The 8 worldly preoccupations has an asterisk, and it says, "Happiness and sadness, gain and loss, fame and obscurity, good or bad reputation. How can you believe in those 8 worldly preoccupations, which are as transient as the colours of the rainbow?" This is Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Thay. And I know maybe that... Oh, that's a nice Zen car alarm in the background, guys. Maybe I don't need to say all of their names every time, but I think it's quite nice to quote them. Did I say hi, Jodie? Hi, Jodie. Now, what would a Buddhist monk do if a car alarm went off when they were trying to read to people? Oh, there we go. Bit of patience. All right, so the following words were uttered as an aspiration prayer in the solitude of the mountains by the aspiring hermit Yonsen Gyamtso, as an admonition to himself and to invoke the compassion of the wisdom deities. Masters of the oral tradition, victorious Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I'm probably saying that word wrong. Bodhisattvas. Sorry. Oh, there's some real words in this one. Right, well, it'll be interesting. Masters of the oral tradition, victorious Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, powerful Avalokiteshvara and precious Tara, hold with your compassion one who, forgetting death, thinks only of the business of this life, squandering his freedoms and favourable conditions. This human life is as fleeting as a dream. Whether it is happy or unhappy, may I, without caring about joys and sorrows, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This human life is like a flame exposed to the wind. Whether it is long or short, may I, without letting my ego tighten its grip, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The reasonings of the intellect are deceptive illusions. Whether they are right or wrong, may I, disdaining them as the trifles of the 8 worldly preoccupations, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Companions are like a flock of birds perched on a tree. Whether they be united or dispersed, may I, taking the reins of my destiny, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. And that very long name, Avalokiteshvara, is the Buddha of selfless love and compassion. Tara, a feminine form of the Buddha who vowed to be reincarnated as a woman constantly until she reaches enlightenment, is the compassionate activity of all Buddhas. Oh, the poem goes on. This illusory body is like an old ruin, whether it is robust or decrepit, may I, unhampered by seeking clothes, food, and medicines, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. As for knowledge that is useless in time of need, like a deer's antlers, never mind if I know it or not, may I, without placing my trust in ordinary knowledge, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The trappings of a llama make me look like a dog turd wrapped in brocade. Whether I have them or not, may I, by seeing the rottenness of my own head, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Friends and relatives are like visitors to a market. Whether they are friendly or hostile, may I, cutting the ropes of attachment from the bottom of my heart, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Material goods are like a treasure found in a dream. Whether I have them or not, may I, without seeking profit by flattering those around me, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Social rank is like a baby bird landing on top of a tree. Whether it is high or low, may I, without yearning for the cause of my own problems, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Quickness to analyze is like the snout of a pig. Whether it is sharp or blunt, may I, without vainly spouting the foam of anger or enthusiasm, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Meditative experiences come and go like a summer torrent. Whether they increase or decrease, may I, without being like a child chasing a rainbow, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. These freedoms and favourable conditions are like the wish-fulfilling gem. Without them, I would be unable to apply the instructions. May I, without wasting them while I still have them, sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The glorious Master illuminates the path of liberation. Without having met him, I would have no means to comprehend the ultimate nature of things, no jumping into the abyss. Now I know where I'm going. May I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This supreme teaching is like a panacea. Without hearing it, there is no way to know what to do or not do. No longer swallowing deadly poison, now I can distinguish the beneficial from the harmful. May I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This alternation of joys and sufferings is like the cycle of the seasons. Without realizing that, how could I get tired of cyclic existence? With the certainty that suffering will again be my lot, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Like a stone in water, one sinks to the bottom of samsara. Now, if I do not seize the rope of compassion that the 3 jewels offer me, later it will be impossible. May I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The qualities of liberation are as precious as an island of jewels. Without knowing them, there is no way to arouse one's courage. Recognizing the unassailable gains of the conquerors, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The life stories of enlightened beings are like ambrosia. Without reading them, one cannot develop faith. Knowing where lies victory or defeat, and no longer buying my own suffering, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Altruistic aspiration to enlightenment is like a fertile field. If one does not develop it, there is no way to attain Buddhahood. Without abandoning through indifference the accomplishment of the noble goal, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This mind is like a turbulent monkey. Without taming it, there is no way to correct the negative emotions. Ceasing to indulge in foolish pantomimes, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This belief in an I accompanies me like a shadow. Without getting rid of it, there is no way to reach the land of bliss. Never fraternizing with the enemy once it is captured, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. These 5 mental poisons are like fire smouldering under the ashes. Without extinguishing them, one cannot rest in the unaltered nature of the mind. ceasing to harbour venomous snakes in my breast, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This rigid character is like the old leather of a butter bag. Without softening it, I cannot mix my mind with the Dharma. Not letting my own child do whatever it likes, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. These invertebrate bad habits are like the flow of a river. Without interrupting them, I will always do what is opposed to the Dharma. Ceasing to supply arms to my enemies, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. These perpetual distractions are like endless ripples on water. Without renouncing them, I cannot stabilize my mind. Ceasing to give birth to samsara while I am free to choose, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The Master's blessings are like the heat that warms the earth and water. Unless they enter me, I cannot recognize my own nature. While this shortcut is possible, without following 1,000 detours, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This solitary place is like a summer valley of medicinal herbs. Without staying here, I cannot develop spiritual qualities. Now that I'm in the mountains, without wandering in the sad villages, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. This desire for comfort is like the demon of poverty living in my own home. Without separating from it, I will always find ways to create suffering. By not making offerings to a hungry devil as if he were a god, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. Attention and vigilance are like the door bars of a fortress. Without them, the comings and goings of illusions will never stop. Never leaving the latch undone in the presence of thieves, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The natural state of mind is like immutable space. Unless one discovers it, efforts to apply antidotes will never end. Instead of putting fetters on my own legs, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The nature of pure awareness is like a stainless crystal. Without realizing it, one does not acquire the certainty that it has no root or foundation. Not seeking elsewhere what is already within, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. The natural simplicity of mind is like an old friend. If its face is unfamiliar, any practice is just deceptive illusion. Instead of groping my way with my eyes closed, may I sincerely practice the supreme Dharma. May the two aspects of the mind of enlightenment arise in my mind, thanks to the Buddha's essential instructions transmitted by Atisha and practiced by holders of the oral lineage. May all my actions be in harmony with the supreme Dharma. Our ordinary actions are as useless as wandering in the desert. Our efforts only make the mind more rigid. Our thoughts just reinforce our delusion, and everything that ordinary people claim to be Dharma is a cause of entanglement. Multitudes of activities that never succeed, crowds of thoughts without any meaning, thousands of needs with no time to cater to them. May I abandon all this agitation and practice the oral instructions. If I want to act, I will take the words of the conqueror as my witness. If I do something, I will mingle my mind with the Dharma. If I want to practice, I will read the lives of the masters of the oral lineage. Indulgent habits, what else can I do with you? Taking the most humble place, with the wealth of satisfaction, freed from the shackles of the 8 ordinary concerns, courageously engaged in practice, receiving the Master's blessings and achieving realization as vast as space, may I enter the lineage of the oral tradition. Well, there you are. That was a long one. Okay, another poem by Pema Lingpa. Pema Lingpa had retired to a mountain hermitage at a place called the Heights of Golden Valley. He lived there alone for a long time in a bamboo hut. Looking down into the valley at the people going about their business from morning to night, a deep sadness came over him. Well, it seems that I'm as distracted by worldly affairs as those villagers down there, he said, and he composed the following advice to encourage himself. Namo Guru Swasti Siddham, homage to the Master, may spiritual accomplishment triumph. O Master, lotus-born, I pray, may the teachings of the Buddha spread through your blessing. Pima Lingpa, the tramp of this base area, since your mother gave you birth, you have forgotten to think about death. Distractions have made you lose your head. All beings of the 6 modes of existence wander in samsara, caught by desire and attachment, desiring this and rejecting that. See everything as bubbles on water or a mirage in the sky. Remember that nothing lasts, Pima Lingpa. It is certain that the beings who are born on the 4 continents will eventually die. In all the past generations, you will not find anyone who did not die. That will be the fate of the people of the present, and it will be the same for those to come. Troubled by the uncertainty of the fatal hour, think of death, Pima Lingpa. You were born in that mire of samsara, your homeland. Until the age of 9, your parents took care of you. Then you wandered in human society, and though no one taught you, you were a pretty good craftsman. Now you're just a common slave, a peddler of the sacred. Although you are a holder of the word of Udayana, you are distracted by the lures of attachment and aversion. Abandon those illusions, Pima Lingpa. At the dawn of the year of the monkey, the 37th of your life, you discovered profound treasures as Udayana had prophesied. Having become the custodian of many deep instructions, you left them in idleness and indifference without practicing them entirely, like water welling up beneath a cave. Negative emotions multiplied without your noticing them. Transform your mind, Pima Lingpa. You haven't given up the desire for food and wealth. You're caught in the snare of greed and self-attachment. Obsessed with your ego, consumed with desire, you fool yourself. Spreading your own praises for friends and companions who lure you with their goods and delicacies, you're a fool, unable to accumulate merit and wisdom. Cut the attachment to the ego, Pima Lingpa. You pamper your body and dress it with ornaments when it's an illusion borrowed from the 4 elements. The objects of the 6 fields of perception that your 5 senses apprehend trick your mind. You hope that your illusory body, tormented by unpredictable birth, sickness, old age, and death, will be eternal, but it will disappear. Cease to cherish it, Pima Lingpa. You are mean to ordinary people. Although you are linked to them by many karmic ties, you lack pure vision toward practitioners of the Dharma. You do not respect your sacred bonds with those to whom you have a spiritual connection. You have no respect for the wise, nor any gratitude to those who do you good, and no sadness in the vicious cycle of samsara. Put a stop to all that, Pima Lingpa. They are firmly established in the great vehicle. They have mastered their minds by study, reflection, and meditation. They have acquired perfect assurance in the phases of creation and completion, and are expert in the 3 stages of the path. But you see only the faults of those sages, and you despise others. You're like a fool who walks towards a precipice, eyes wide open. Cultivate pure vision, Pima Lingpa. Your homeland is the prison of Mara, the instigator of obstacles. Friends and relatives are Mara's tempters. Food and riches are Mara's brigands. Samsara is the stake he will tie you to. Mara's rope is your laziness. Mara comes from your attachment to self. You don't know your own nature and never cease to procrastinate. Abandon the 8 worldly concerns, Pima Lingpa. You only appreciate immediate gratification. Your life runs out day after day, night after night. Your body is aging, month by month, year by year. Your mind is sinking in the mud of ignorance, and you leave your practice for later. You never understood what was for your own good. Stubborn and without dharma, you are fooling yourself. Just think about it, Pima Lingpa. You adopt the appearance of an ascetic without having realized the essence, the unborn state. You will not be Buddha simply by pretending. Apply yourself determinedly to the real meaning, since understanding alone is not enough to realize it without clarifying the mind in its depth. You will never exhaust the confusion of concepts. Resolve the essence, Pima Lingpa. Abandon the vain activities of the world and, far from everything, free from ordinary activities, in a secluded place, far from the crowds, in the shelter of a cave, spacious and open, alone, cast off concern for body and mind. Adopt the 7-point posture of Vairocana with the intention of helping all beings. Unite your mind with the mind of your master. Visualize him constantly above your head, Pima Lingpa. Original mind is not composite. Fundamental mind is empty by nature. Manifest mind is omnipresent. The mind of the 6 fields of perception apprehends their 6 objects. The mind of the 6 classes of beings is driven by karma. Deluded mind clings to an I. The nature of mind is free from impurity. Be perfectly sure of that, Pima Lingpa. When you cultivate inner calm, whatever thoughts may come to you, recognize them with great clarity. Stare at them and free them in their nakedness, then rest in that state. Alternating formal meditation and post-meditation with inner peace will come joy and bliss, and you will taste the ultimate flavor of insight. Maintain the constancy of your meditation, Pima Lingpa. Overcome by lassitude and renunciation, I, Pima Lingpa, a monk from Bhutan, sang this little song of 16 pieces of advice that arose in my mind. May they be useful to beings and not deserve the censure of the learned. There's a couple of notes on things that I probably definitely don't know what they are. Udayana refers here to Padmasambhava, who is said to have been born in a lotus in the lake Dhanakosha in Udayana, a former country in northwestern India, corresponding probably to the Swat Valley in Pakistan, from which originated many other great Buddhist teachers, including Garab Dorje, the first human master of the Dzogchen tradition. Yes, expert in the 3 stages of the path. These stages probably correspond to the 3 vehicles, Hinayana, Mahayana and Vajrayana. Yes, Mara, demon, devil in the sutras refers to an evil spirit or negative force that creates hindrances to progress toward enlightenment. In the context of Buddhist meditation practice, those hindrances are categorized as the 4 demons. They are the demon of the aggregates, the physical and mental components of the person, which constitute the support of suffering in samsara. The demon of negative emotions, which are the cause of suffering. The demon of death, which means not only death but also the momentary nature of all things. Subtle impermanence is also suffering. And the divine demon, which means the distraction and attachment to pleasant things that are taken as real. Adopt the 7-point posture of Vairocana. The 7-point posture of Vairocana, the legs are crossed in the Vajra posture, lotus posture. We know that from our yoga. The hands are placed on the lap in the gesture of equanimity. The right on the left hand with the tips of the thumbs touching. The shoulders are open and forearms slightly apart from the trunk. The spine is straight. Chin is slightly tucked in against the throat. The tip of the tongue touches the roof of the palate. The gaze is directed straight ahead or slightly downward, following the nose. Eyes open or half closed. Okay. Okay, I'm going to finish the chapter. This is from Petrul Rinpoche. This story about Petrul Rinpoche was told to the author by Nyushul Ken Rinpoche, and it is called Petrul Rinpoche and the Thief. It was near the monastery of Zamthang. Petrul Rinpoche was sitting, not on a throne in a temple, but on a grassy knoll. He had just finished teaching the way of the Bodhisattva in detail to several thousand people, when a member of his audience wanted to offer him a horseshoe-shaped silver ingot. As usual, Petrul Rinpoche refused the offering, but the man nonetheless laid the ingot at his feet and walked away briskly. Soon after, Petrul Rinpoche stood up and went on his way, leaving on the mound all that had been offered to him. A thief, knowing that the master had received a silver ingot, followed him, intending to steal it. Petrul Rinpoche used to travel alone, often without a specific destination, and would spend his nights under the stars. That night, while he was asleep, the robber approached him stealthily under cover of darkness. Next to Petrul Rinpoche there was a small cloth bag and a clay pot to make tea. Not finding what he sought, the thief started rummaging surreptitiously clothing, when suddenly, awakened by the thief's hand, Petrul exclaimed, "Kaho! What are you doing rummaging in my clothes?" Frightened, the man replied brusquely, "Someone gave you a silver ingot. I must have it. Give it to me." "Kaho!" exclaimed the master again. "Look what a hard life you lead, running right and left like a fool. Have you come all this way just for a piece of silver? Poor you. Now listen. Go back quickly the way you came, and at dawn you'll arrive at the bank where I was sitting. The silver is still there." The thief was sceptical, but he had searched the master's belongings enough to know that he was no longer in possession of the ingot. It seemed most unlikely that the coveted offering would be in the place indicated, but he still went back on his tracks. By hunting around the mound, he finally found the piece of silver that Petrul had simply left there. The robber, who was no longer young, lamented, "Adzi, this Petrul is surely a true master, freed from all attachment. By trying to steal from him, I have just created some very bad karma." Tormented by remorse, he retraced his steps in search of Petrul Rinpoche. When he finally found him, Petrul exclaimed, "Kaho! You're back, always running up hill and down dale. What do you want this time?" Overcome, the thief broke into tears. "I haven't come back to steal anything from you. I found the ingot, and I really regret having acted so badly toward a true spiritual master like you. To think that I was ready to take away from you what little you have. I beg your pardon. Bless me and accept me as a disciple." Petrul Rinpoche reassured him, "Don't bother to confess or ask me for forgiveness. From now on, practice generosity and invoke the 3 jewels. That will be enough." Some time later, people got wind of the story and started to beat the thief. When Petrul Rinpoche heard about it, he sharply rebuked them. "If you hurt this man, it's as if you were hurting me, so leave him alone." Okay, this is from Milarepa. Milarepa and the Hunter. One day, the famous hermit poet Milarepa, after installing his disciples in retreat, withdrew to a cave to practice his own meditation in tranquility. The chosen location seemed to offer an ideal environment. The beautiful scenery, the solitude, the support of the local deities, the singing of the birds, and gentle babble of a clear brook combined in perfect harmony. So it was a shock when a ferocious barking disturbed the quiet of the place. The hermit soon saw from a promontory the interruption that was coming his way. He saw a black stag rushing toward him, breathless and terrified. Great compassion arose in his heart. He made a wish to teach the Dharma to that animal so that it might be released from its plight, and sang it this song. I won't sing. "I prostrate myself at the feet of Marpa of Lodrak. Listen, deer, whose head is crowned with splendid antlers. As long as you seek to run away from anything in the outside world, you will never be liberated from the hallucinations of ignorance. The time has come for you to renounce all this delusion. The maturation of karma is too fast for you. How could you escape it in an illusory body? If you want to run away, flee into the essence of the mind. Run to the dwelling place of enlightenment. It is sheer delusion to want to escape anywhere else. Therefore, put an end to your confusion and stay with me, overcome by the fear of death. You hope to be safe on the other side of the hill, and fear being caught on this side. But it is hope and fear that make you wander in samsara. I will teach you the 6 yogas of Naropa and show you how to meditate on the great symbol. He sang in a voice as melodious as that of Brahma. Anyone who heard him would have fallen under his charm. The deer, in tears, lay down at his feet. The hermit was wondering where the barking he had heard came from when a red-coated bitch appeared, barking furiously. Milarepa, saddened, directed his compassion toward her in turn and sang this song. I prostrate myself at the feet of Marpa of Lodrak. May he bless me that I may calm the hatred of beings. Wolf-faced dog, hear the song of Milarepa. You take everything you see as an enemy, and your heart is full of hate. Reborn as a cruel beast, you live in hunger and suffering. The poisons that torture you never subside. If you do not take possession of your own mind, what will you gain by seizing outside prey? It's your mind that it is time to conquer. Give up your hatred and stay with me. Right now, under the influence of your unbearable aggressivity, you fear losing the deer on the other side of the mountain, while hoping to catch it on this side. Naropa. Naropa was the Indian master of Marpa. He transmitted the teachings of the particular practices of the 6 yogas: inner heat, illusory body, dream, clear light, bardo, immediate states, particularly between death and rebirth, and transference of consciousness. But it is hope and fear that make you wander in samsara. I will teach you the 6 yogas of Naropa and show you how to meditate on the great symbol. Moved by the immense compassion of the hermit, the dog's hatred was appeased, and she lay down by the deer. Milarepa said to himself that a sinister figure would surely come after the 2 animals, and indeed he appeared, sweaty and rolling his eyes. He was a hunter named Kirawa Gonpo Dorje. Foaming with rage at the sight of the dog and the deer lying quietly near Milarepa, he inveighed brutally against the hermit and shot an arrow at him that missed its target. Milarepa, thinking that a human being should at least be as capable of understanding as an animal, advised him to listen to his song before shooting any more arrows. I pray to all the great accomplished beings. May they bless us that we may be free from mental poisons. You, the man with the face of an ogre, hear the song of Mila. It is taught that the human body is a rare jewel, but looking at you, I see nothing precious. You, evil man who looks like a demon, you run after the pleasures of this life, but in doing so, you're heading for a fall. Yet if you conquer the desire within, you will obtain true accomplishments. You will never control outer phenomena. Now it's your mind that you need to master. You will not satisfy your desires by killing the deer, but if you put an end to the 5 inner poisons, you will fulfill all your wishes. The more you try to defeat your outer enemies, the more they come in greater numbers. If you simply master your own mind, you will put an end to all adversity. Instead of spending your life in harmful acts, you had better practice the supreme Dharma. I will teach you the 6 yogas of Naropa and show you how to meditate on the great symbol. Still suspicious but struck by the animal's behaviour and the unusual power of this lama, the hunter inspected the cave to see if he was not dealing with a charlatan, but, finding nothing in it but a handful of roots and leaves, he felt such intense faith that he offered Milarepa everything he owned, including the life of the deer, and asked to serve him. Milarepa was delighted at the repentance of the hunter and accepted him as his disciple. The hunter, moved by the rectitude and kindness of the hermit, burst into tears and himself composed a song to Milarepa in which he prayed for guidance. But when he decided to return to his family to settle his affairs and return as soon as possible, Milarepa dissuaded him by singing the following advice. You, the hunter, listen to me. The storm thunders, but it is only empty sound. The rainbow has beautiful colours, but it vanishes quickly. Worldly things, even when enjoyable, are only a dream. Desirable objects provide great pleasure, but give rise to harmful actions. Composite things seem to last forever, but are soon destroyed. What we had yesterday, we lack today. He who was alive last year is no longer there this year. Foods we eat for our well-being change into poison. The former good companion becomes an enemy, and those we protected with benevolence now cover us with insults. The evil you've done, it's you it will hurt. Among 100 heads, your own is the dearest. Of your 10 fingers, cut any, and it's you who suffer. Of all wives, it's your own that you cherish the most. Now it is time to do something for yourself. Life is fleeting, and soon death will knock at your door. To postpone your spiritual practice is not reasonable. In fact, your dear ones push you into samsara. It is time for you to follow a spiritual master. You will find happiness in this life, and even more happiness in lives to come. It's time to practice the Dharma. Upon hearing this song, Gonpo Dorje was fully converted to the Dharma and abandoned any idea of returning home. When he had received all the necessary teachings from Milarepa, he made them an inner experience through meditation and reached ultimate realization. Thus he became one of Milarepa's heart disciples, while the dog and the deer were released from their lower rebirth. He became famous under the name of Kirarepa, and you can still see his bow and arrows in the cave of Milarepa. The end of chapter 5 of On the Path to Enlightenment by Mathieu Ricard and many other Buddhist monks. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Thank you for listening and maybe watching. Yeah, there's so many stories in there. I'm trying to think what the lesson was. Giving up the causes of suffering. It sounds like you've got to practice the Dharma to get there. Give up the causes of suffering. Give up doing anything. It's like they just really are into the whole doing nothing, caring about nothing stuff, which is perhaps a little bit more challenging if you're not a monk and you do have possessions and a job and a family. But I suppose we can apply it to our lives if we want to, even in a small way. If you want to, we'll do a very short meditation. Just find a comfortable position, whether that's lying down in bed or on the sofa, or if it's sitting. And if you're lying down, you can try bending your legs, putting your feet flat on the surface so you've got your legs up. It's good for your spine. Make sure your head is supported. And if you're sitting like me, just imagine there's a string at the top of your head pulling you to the sky. Feel that length in your neck. And maybe bring some awareness to your chest and roll your shoulders back. Keep that chest nice and open. And whether you're sitting or lying, just feel where you are connected with the ground or the chair or the bed. Feel where you are connected. And in your mind's eye, see how that is connected to the ground. And going lower, we are connected to the earth. And feel that connection. Know that the earth has got you. And while you're here, if any thoughts come in, that's all right, just let them go. Go back to what you can feel or hear. Go back to your five senses. Maybe you can smell something. Maybe you've just eaten and you can taste something in your mouth. How's your body feeling? Maybe you want to lengthen your breaths. Let those shoulders drop a little bit more. And while you're here, I'd just like to remind you that you are wonderful, powerful, conscious beings. Do with that what you will, but I feel very pulled to tell people that recently. So there you go. Just have a check-in with your body now, see how you're feeling. Maybe start from your head. See if you can relax your face muscles, because we hold a lot of tension there. Relax your jaw. Let your tongue move away from the top of your mouth. Let all those muscles around your eyes relax. And imagine, if you can, try imagining that your eyeballs are being held by your eye sockets. It might sound a bit weird, but it can help you release a bit of eye tension. Move down your neck, down your shoulders, down your arms, down your hands, everything just going heavy. Down the chest and the stomach. Let the stomach go when you breathe in. Let it relax. Your bum and your thighs, your calves, and down your feet. Let everything just melt a bit. And maybe wiggle your fingers, and wiggle your toes. And when you're ready, gently blink your eyes open. And I always say this, but if that's your first time giving a meditation a go. I know it was super short, but you can do it. You don't need to learn to meditate, you've just done it. So there you go. Yeah, that was nice. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back at some point, but my life's a bit more hectic now, a bit more like it was, not quite, but a little bit, so I'll just read this book as and when I feel like it. Yeah, it's been a crazy time with lockdown being lifted and all sorts of things going on with that, and then obviously Black Lives Matter, and I feel like talking about this stuff from this book is just sort of it might be a good support for if you are doing some activism or if you're just trying to get through Corona. So I hope it helps everyone, and yeah, I'll see you soon. I hope you're all well, and if you're not well right now, I hope you're okay, and I hope you get better soon. All right, laters.